my first step ever podcast, and I am Ishani Nigam, your host and producer of the podcast. This podcast is made for all the disruptors around the globe who know that they are made for something, for that one thing, but fear of embarrassment, fear of rejection, the fear of fear itself holds us back at some point in time. But hey, those are the only milestones that if we cross, we are there to take our first steps. So, welcome on this journey with me where I interview people from across the globe so that they can share their story, their challenges, and you know that even you can surpass yours. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome on my first step ever. I am so excited to start this episode today because I have someone who I've been personally following her journey, the way she has really, turned the entire recruitment market in Australia for the early career starters, students just graduates just out of the university, and she's really helped a lot of people gain that the edge, the entry into the different industries that people are really looking out for today. Now her story is very interesting. I know bits and pieces and I want to know a bit more, but in the context of she taking her first steps into the career that she is in and what really went behind it, and really getting into the mind of an amazing recruiter, and much more than that, the managing director of GAGAGO at Australia. Please welcome Camilla Clarke. Hi Camilla.
Hi, Ishani. That's such a nice intro. I'm like, thank you.
I'm sure people who are listening to us from Australia, they definitely know you, especially Melbourne. They definitely know you because the kind of, the positive wave that you sort of, brought through during COVID time. It's a very interesting story, and that's where I'm going to, jump in straight away right now. But before that, I'll give my listeners a little bit of background into you and your journey. So Camilla is growing the Give a Grad a Go team in Australia, and she's based out of Melbourne. The Give a Grad a Go team is a bigger and it's a very strong company running and impacting many lives in UK. And Camilla came to Australia at the very amazing and very unpredictable time of COVID. So that's a journey that we're going to unfold over here and much more. Now she has worked in the early careers recruitment space since joining the Give a Grad a Go in London back in 2013. So 2013, 20, oh my God, 10 years. This is your 10th year anniversary. Wow, this is amazing. So globally, this company has launched almost 5,000 careers. Now you know that why they are so good with what they are, and and why they have really able to spread their wings in Australian market. So that's really amazing. And they have partnered with some amazing startups and small businesses and to large corporates, and that's how they can really get you real deal for the students, international students or students, university students from every sector and every industry. And it's a very transparent system that they follow, I would say. But about Camilla. Okay. She enjoys chatting with students, and that I have seen because I personally went to that experience. And she really is an amazing and fun person. She has, run a few clubs, and she's in yoga classes, and she is really interested in a lot of fun stuff. So do check her out on LinkedIn. And I'm sure after this conversation, you would be interested. So, yeah, Camilla, getting back to the first question I have. You flew from London to Australia, and then the bomb dropped, COVID started. So just take me through that experience. What was going in your head at that point in time?
Oh my gosh, it's wild, isn't it? For everyone. Yeah, because when I got to Australia in March, beginning of March, my CEO in the UK landed second week of March, and then we were talking about everything, had a laptop, had a phone. He flew home. The F1 had just been cancelled, still no chat about it. And then suddenly, lockdown. I don't know. I think because we all didn't really know what was happening, it just felt like day by day. And it's funny, someone asked me something that recently where I had to go back through my LinkedIn like 3 years ago or even further. And I was just looking at all the content that was put out there. And I think it was just, okay, I'm here. I know what I'm doing in the UK, but I need to learn more about, obviously, Australia. People don't know who Give a Grad a Go are. I know that there's lots of grads who need jobs. I know there aren't jobs who can that are providing, space for grads right now. So where can I fill in? Where can I learn? So I really just tried to talk to everyone and anyone. And I guess from like a grad perspective, I was just talking to universities and doing like virtual workshops just to connect with students and provide like information and advice that I could at least help. Yeah, it's funny. It feels like a different world, but in a funny way, I feel quite grateful for the time because it actually gave that research period and that getting to know and actually feeling quite integrated within Australian, I guess, business and culture. Like it just felt like I was part of something because I was here and I was experiencing it with everyone in the longest lockdown.
Yeah, in the world.
Yeah.
We were the privileged ones to
Yeah,
take some more
exactly.
rest.
Yeah.
So, Camilla, that is very interesting, I would say. So, I'm sure that you had your own share of, emotional ups and downs, but past that, you have been thoroughly professional. And I think the fact that you have had such long and good years of experience back in the UK in terms of your career, in terms of your profession, and you could sort of bank on that experience, but also sort of innovate at that point in time, because that is what it was needed, and that is something that comes within from a person itself, the resilience, the mindset of oh, now I need to kind of try different routes, what was available to get through it, and not really losing your shit, as we say. I mean, you
Yeah.
do lose your shit, but then you have to kind of clean that up and get up and get going on. I'd really like to know over here, because a lot of our listeners who are maybe teens, or they are like in early 20s or even in late 20s, or even who are doing in the second innings in their life, which is so amazing. Most of us have been in a situation where we must have had good 3 or 4 or 5 years of career in a country, and then we want to move to a different place, and suddenly we need to establish ourselves yet again. You had the double challenge of doing that, as well doing that in COVID times. So if you can maybe walk us through that time and just pick maybe 3 things that you could share. What was the most 3 difficult things that you experienced, and how you overcame that?
That's a big question. During COVID, I think that in terms of coming over, and like I said, no one knew who GAGAGO was. So I was just trying to figure out, okay, I know that there's a need, but how can I get out there? And I
Mm.
think as well, in COVID times, no one really wanted bullshit. No one wanted to be sold to. We all just wanted like human
Leave us alone.
reaction. Yeah, I hope that's okay. I could say that.
You can. It's a safe space.
Yeah. So I think I was like, okay, do you know what? If people don't know who I am, then it's like I need to actually show them who I am. And so I did that through video, which I promise you, Ashani, I lived with my sister at the time, so I was very lucky that I had a soft landing to live with her. But I cannot tell you how many hours videos I spent doing the take over and over and over again. I've got some very funny outtakes. So I think that like overcoming that, which I really like, putting myself out there on LinkedIn was very uncomfortable, but it really did pay off because I felt like people got to know me or trust me, which I think is super important as well, obviously
Yes.
in recruitment. What else in that period? I think just motivation.
Yeah.
There were days, I remember, I won't lie about it, where you'd wake up and be like, okay, I needed to go out. I'm quite I'm quite into my exercise before work anyway.
Mhm.
So I was like, I need to get out, do that. But then I'd come back and I'd be like, right, what am I going to achieve today? And I'd be like, sometimes I would just be messaging and messaging and messaging, and you'd have nothing, or
Yeah.
you'd have one, and then it would change. It wouldn't be what, materialize into that. And so it was just
Yes.
like that self motivation. Sometimes you just be working from bed and be like, what am I doing? But actually, I learned to just celebrate just like the smallest things. And I was, like I said, live with my sister, and I was very grateful that we had each other to just check in. I
Yeah.
think if you keep it to yourself and you don't share with other people what you're feeling, then you don't actually realize how much you have achieved in that time. It's very easy, I think, to give yourself all that negative self-talk and be like, you're not doing enough, you're not helping enough people, you're not, XYZ, when actually if you talk to someone and say, yeah, I've done this, da da da, they're like, what? Wow. So I think that I learned to, yeah, share more.
This is a great piece of advice as well, I would say. I like to kind of summarize these three things that you have mentioned for our listeners. So for anyone who's actually looking to start something new, and it's quite scary, but Camilla has really broken things down in the most natural form, I would say, because that's the most natural feeling that someone has. How do we start all over again? And the only thing is to just get out there and get started. There is no other way. I mean, that's the thing. You just need to get started. For Camilla, it was building her own brand because that's what a profession requires. But honestly, that's something that is required out of anyone in these time in this time. I would say that building your personal brand is something that you really need to look into. But it doesn't necessarily have to be video. If that's something that really scares you, you can start really small. And but I would really give kudos to Camilla for doing that. And you are a natural, I would say. On I remember your post when I think you did make a post saying that how many videos you made, and this was the one that I mean, the final video that you had put up, your first video, and it was quite an interesting video. It was in a portrait format that you had done something, and you had put your learnings out of it. It was so natural and it was so real. And it's a very important point. When you put your real self out there, people will really relate with you, and they will understand you. And once they know that you are genuine and you have nothing to hide, it's easy for people to communicate with you. The next two things that you mentioned, celebrate small achievements, and the third most important thing that you mentioned was to express. And if you don't, you really fall into this really negative loop, that self-talk, negative self-talk loop, especially when you are away from family. So thank you so much, Camilla. I think you've really summarized a few very important points of how you made that start. And yes, I mean, it's very interesting. Now I'm going to jump a little back in your lifetime journey here, and it's not a very linear movie, as we say. This is a very flashback and coming in the present is sort of a chat that we have. Then talk us through your early teen days. What were you back then, and what was your mindset? How were you back then?
Also, can I just say, talking about branding and putting yourself out there, like Ishani, you are pioneering that. So I've
Oh,
seen you over the last 3 years when you first started this podcast and when you were just putting stuff out there and you were really committed to consistency. And that I think has been amazing to watch. So
thank you.
yeah, if anyone's listening, you are someone definitely. I mean, if they're already listening, then they already know, I'd hope. Mindset as a teen. It's a big question. This is going back like 20 years. But in terms of, I guess, how I grew up, my mum's like an avid reader. I'm the youngest of four and
Wow.
very driven, intelligent siblings. One has done a PhD, like great writer. Everyone's very just wanting to do things that they enjoy and love. And
Wow.
I think that I grew up in a household where there wasn't ever, like, I'd say, pressure in terms of you've got to get your homework done, you've got to do this, but there was just like this expectation of you've got to do good, like, and you figure out how you get there. There wasn't, I guess, such a structure in place, but also, I guess, in throughout my career, my parents have always been like, as long as you're happy, and it's something that you're interested in, then which I think has pluses and minuses. I
Yes.
don't I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. When I was younger, I just wanted to sing, to be honest. And then
Wow.
so that was just like a totally different thing. Mindset was just, do something that you are happy doing. And yeah, just try your best really.
That's very, very interesting, because not many people actually get that sort of an environment where you are given that flexibility of, structure it yourself. But yes, I do see there is always an expectation, and that's for, everyone when we are growing up. And it's nice that you were what you actually mentioned, that you did not really know what you wanted to do, but there was a childhood dream. And that's very relatable because all of us do have that, a childhood dream, and then we really don't know what to do when we grow up. So from there, Camilla, when you first interviewed for Give a GAGAGO in UK. Tell
Mhm.
us about that journey. Why did you select them? How did you go for the interview? What was the first step like? Because it's the most hardest, it's the
Mhm.
most difficult. And if we are able to go past that, things might be on a right track. So that's what we are trying to achieve for our listeners, every time that we have amazing guest speakers like you. So if you can take us through your journey.
I'll try and do a condensed version. Before Give a Grad a Go, I worked in like an energy company in a very corporate job, open plan, smartware, silent space, and it wasn't me. It was, yeah, felt very uncomfortable. And then I found myself with Give a Grad a Go because I was looking for a job in London. They were up there with, I was recommended to go contact them. And then I had a chat with my now boss, and he was like, you should come in, you can chat. And
Definitely.
I walked in, and it was just so different to everything I knew. It was really small then. There were just 5 people, and it was vibrant. There was music on. Everyone looked happy and smiling, and like they were just so welcoming. And I didn't know anything about recruitment at all. I thought my understanding of recruitment was really limited. I thought they took, money out of my pay every month. Like I just had no idea, which I totally get the preconceptions, but no, they just seem to really care, and I just felt good. I think for anyone who is trying to figure out that first step, I just my advice is always just gut feel is so important, and that's from both sides. Like when I interview
Yeah.
people, when companies are selecting people on their teams, we always talk about gut feel, and I think it works both ways. Like if you
Yeah.
feel just good in the space, if you can go obviously
Yeah.
to the office, which is
Yeah.
different now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's kind of what happened.
Wow, this is quite interesting. I would say that, definitely you are someone who is very easy to kind of, chat to, because I have personally gone through that process, and I can say that, the transparency that the company sort of brings through, even in terms of information on the website, for example, for a particular job listing, you have the everything about the job, the industry, the job role, the pay, everything is upfront over there. And that sort of really, the transparency really attracts anyone who's starting off, especially who's starting off early, because they know that they are not going to be taken for a ride. So that is really, really, something that is impressive, and that probably I could say, stands out for a lot of us. But it's so amazing to know your professional journey, and how you really pivoted things, and now that you have really grown Give a Grad a Go in the past 3 years, you're the managing director in Australia, and you have, been able to recruit a couple of amazing people in your team. So do you want to take us through that journey? Because I think you have such amazing first steps in your life, that, first kind of, migrating from the place, building the brand, and now, expanding your team. So take us through that experience.
Thanks, Ashani. You're really making me feel great right now.
Well, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's crazy actually to go from just me in my room in 2020 to actually got a new gal, Kelly, starting on Wednesday this week.
Oh, lovely.
So that's super exciting, which will bring us to 6. I think growing the team's been the hardest thing that I've had to do in my career. I've loved it so much. I've learned so much. It's actually been insane to think that I do recruitment, but growing my team's been the hardest thing. And I think I've had the opportunity. Our values are global. I've worked in the business for so long. I know kind of I've really wanted it to be an extension of
Yeah,
UK business, but there's also that leeway of wanting it, like shaping it in a way that also fits with
the Australian
Australian
culture.
vibe,
Yeah,
Melbourne vibe,
yeah,
and just like that's been an interesting journey as well. And I think also just getting involved in a lot more than when I was in the UK, it was recruitment primarily focused. And this has been a lot of like partnerships, and I don't know, even down to like deciding on our social events, to just like navigating all of that has
mm,
been challenging. But that's exactly why I wanted to take the challenge, because I wanted to learn new things, and I love the team. They're just, even when I think the main thing I've learned as well is I have to be on. You have to be on every day. You have to be, whatever's happening, you've got to be positive. You've got to be, even if you feel like things aren't, it's not going how you want it to go and on that day, or you've had a personal bad day or whatever, people are looking at you to
Yeah.
really like keep that positive mindset. And actually there's been times when I'm human and I don't think I've been where I've wanted to be with that, and I've gone in and I've just seen like everyone's just so dedicated and they care so much and they celebrate together and they really really work together so nicely, and like inside and out the office they're just like such a team. And that's the best thing I think I've experienced, and I'm very proud.
This is an incredible experience that you're sharing, because I think a lot many people who have been in that shoe of being a leader, being someone who's managing a team or leading a team, for people who have not yet reached there, I think this is something which adds as if an extra bit of motivation, a really important bit of motivation, because if you're working on your own, the days that you don't feel like, you really don't feel like, and there's no one or no reason at that point in time that you would really like to get up out of the bed. But when you do, as you just mentioned, you have, even though it's a responsibility, it wouldn't feel that bit of a pressure, because you see that how the team is really working towards a goal, and that's how you feed off the energy. So this is amazing. So thank you so much, Camilla. I think in the short span of time today, I've really enjoyed your journey from coming from UK, setting yourself up during COVID, and getting to know a bit more about your journey in UK, and then coming back to Australia, you growing your team. Thank you so much for being on my first step ever and taking us through your journey, letting us know what are the important bits and how important it is to keep going on. Before we take your leave, I like to ask one question. Is there anything so far in your personal or professional journey which you feel like an aha moment, or the biggest realization that you had while living your life, that you would maybe want to pass on to our listeners today?
Big question.
So I'm just asking a lot of big questions.
Yeah, I think, and I'll be super quick and over on time, but this isn't on my LinkedIn. I actually, 4 or 5 years into Give a Grad a Go, I left, and with a friend, we went on this venture to try and set up a sparkling wine bar in London. And it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. We just had this idea. We were at this time where we were like, I was enjoying what I was doing, but I didn't know if, do I want to do this forever? I don't know. And we went ahead with it. And then a couple of years down the line, we decided for different reasons that we needed to call it. And I was really lucky with Give a Grad a Go. Having gone through that, I knew that I still really loved working graduate recruitment. And then this opportunity came up to go to Australia as well. So it all kind of worked there. So my biggest advice is really, if you can, obviously I appreciate people have responsibilities, mortgage, family, all that sort of stuff. But if you do have an option to try something else, you're never locked in. You shouldn't feel like you're locked into something. And hopefully if you are in the right organization where you do want to try something else, hopefully they do have that capacity to give you that space, and you have made a big enough impact to be able to return if you need to. So I think just don't put too much pressure on yourself. I feel that's what I am.
That is really, really interesting, and I would say thank you so much for sharing that with us. In simple words, it just means that give yourself that try, give yourself that chance to try out what you've really been looking out for. Always try and make things work in a way that can give you an option in your life, so that you have experimented and you don't regret. So thank you so much, Camilla, and I'm happy to know that you were able to give yourself that kind of professional career that gave you that opportunity to take that route that you wanted to experiment, and then come back and do with all your will and heart that you really are doing today. And it's been amazing chatting with you. Thank you so much for being on my first step ever.
You too. It's so nice to catch up with you, and congratulations with the podcast, Ashani.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for all my listeners, as I always say, start believing in yourself and keep believing in yourself. If you're still glued together on this episode, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if you really want to hear more such stories from around the globe, then subscribe to my First Step Ever podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify, whichever platform you prefer. Please do give ratings and please do write your comments. And you can directly reach out to me on my First Step Ever _IN. That's my Instagram handle. A little about myself. I have always loved performing on stage, acting, speaking, and just emoting myself. So I use these mediums different ways so that I can connect with people, help them, empower them, infotain them, which is to inform them and entertain them. If you would like to collaborate for any opportunities, more than welcome to connect with me on my Instagram handle. Thank you.